Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Community Governance Electoral Issues Committee. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have an apology for absence from Councillor Catherine Keats-Rowland with no substitute.
Thank you. Agenda item 2 is minutes to record as a correct record of Community Governance Electoral Issues Committee meetings held on the 29th of November.
Only 22.
2022, not the 22nd as on your agenda. Are we able to do that? Because I wasn't here. Anybody?
I was the only one there.
There.
I will propose that was a true record of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. So that's agreed.
I'll second that.
You second that, and hopefully it's agreed. That's all agreed. Right. Agenda item 3: declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
It's just for the record, but it's not in the report. But one of the community centres that I run has been used as a polling station before, so it's just it probably isn't in interest, but just for highlighting, just in case.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Urgent business.
None from.
There is no urgent business. Public participation.
There is no
public participation. And therefore, agenda item 6, which is review of polling districts and polling places. Consider the report of the head of legal and democratic on review of polling districts and polling places to meet the requirements to undertake a compulsory review every 5 years. Are there any questions or comments on the review that we've received? Well, James, have you got some questions?
I sent some across, yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to relate them when you get an answer.
Yeah, no, I will absolutely. I was just checking if anybody else has got some as well.
No, yeah.
Before we go, Chair, but I just if I can, I don't know if committee members have met two officers.
Oh.
So we've got Susan Baker, who's the electoral services team leader in the room, and then virtually we've got Jordan Kennedy, who's one of the electoral services officers, and both Susan and Jordan took the majority of the work on this review. Yeah, so most of the questions will be deferred to them if there are any this evening.
Well, yes, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going. I'm not sure what I'm doing now.
Again, questions on.
James, I was just going to say, actually, we've had this report for over a week. It would have been better to have your questions earlier, then everybody else would have been able to respond to them. So if we can't get an answer, then it's really insufficient time to actually.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay. Better than 6 o'clock as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the first question is just that point about it'd be good to understand where we can see a map of all of the South Oxfordshire polling districts. I looked on the county-wide one and it showed us various things, but it didn't seem to show that. I just thought it'd be quite helpful to see it graphically. I'm guessing there is one, given the bits that are at the end of the report.
Yeah, it's all mapped on our internal South and Vale GIS system, which I understand councillors have access to.
Okay.
So yeah, they're all plotted on there, the polling districts and the current designated polling places, as well as the polling stations that we have used in the last 2 or 3 recent elections. So it's on the GIS system.
And are they the ones that are available to the public as well, rather than just internally?
For the public, when there's election running, they are added on to the county council layer, which was, I think, what you'd sent the link through. That's to right. The county council layer. They add on polling stations when we're running an election. We also have them available through the Democracy Club as well, but that's only when there's a live election going. When there's a live election in progress, then they're available from the county council system and the Democracy Club.
Okay, and is that something separate to Democracy Club? I mean,
it's an organisation that has volunteers that upload information, and we always have a link on our council websites to their information where you can search for your local polling station. They also upload candidates' information, etc.
Just to check on the GIS layers, just because I don't have a council laptop, do I need to be able to get into Jarvis to be able to see those then if they're not available to the public?
Yeah.
Or do it here.
Right, okay. or find a friend locally.
Mockie's got a question, so
Yes, this is just some of the questions regarding to some of the polling stations in Didcot. There's a lot saying due to size no longer suitable, and we're going to move it to another polling station or another venue. Voters are creatures of habit, and some don't even have their polling card. Some don't even know there's an election on that particular day, let alone that their polling station has changed. How are we going to communicate this? Because there's quite a lot of changes in Didcot here, according to this report, and I'm concerned that people will be turning up going, "Oh, I'm expecting to be able to vote here," and it's changed. There's quite a lot of changes here.
we had quite a few changes in time, the last elections, and there was people were turning up at the wrong place.
It's our normal practice to add a specific note on the poll cards in capital letters. Please note your polling station has changed, along with the details of the correct polling station. And we always try to send out signage to the previous place that was used, asking them to put it up on the day. And we also usually contact the parish clerks and asking them to help publicise it locally. And that's our usual steps.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there's so many that needs to be, moved in Didcot. There's about 3 that need to be moved from where it's always been to another place.
That's our recommendations. So.
Is that because of the one becoming unsuitable, or because another one's become available, which is more suitable?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Mixture of both.
Yeah. And what we do, we as you've seen from the report, we've gone back through all the feedback that we've received in the recent elections and acted on or taken on board what people, voters and staff have said to us. And that's why we've sort of looked into more places.
I was just surprised the number of changes, but if there's a justification, then obviously there's a reason behind it. But just surprised with the number of changes.
Yeah.
Anybody else? James, you got another question?
Sure. Yeah. Again, this report prompted other questions which I hadn't thought about before, so it's really helpful in that way. I was thinking about the evidence for polling station location and accessibility impacting turnout, whether we've ever been able to link those things together. I was thinking particularly about reading some of the comments, say, from the Shillingford Hill residents who will have to travel quite some way where they haven't got public transport. It's only a small community of about 150 people, I think. Down the hill in Warburg is a lot closer for them to go than go all the way across to Brightwell. It makes sense to go to Brightwell in terms of the ward that they're in, but I could just see their point of view, and I just wondered I'd imagine there's a real juggling act to be had, and how you balance those things. But I presume we want to get as big a turnout as possible. Then it prompted these questions about posting.
Yeah, we don't have any statistics or information how a polling station accessibility impacts on how many people go there. It's just not something we would be able to quantify. So I put quite some open questions in the survey that we sent out. With regards to Shillingford Hill, I might be wrong, but I believe the first time we moved the polling station, we wrote individually to every single elector. We also always give out information on how people can apply to an absent vote, so be that a postal vote or a proxy vote. So people always have access to that information, which a lot of people with disabilities and accessibility issues would likely take up, or the options there for them.
Yeah, I think Lockie was.
Well, following on from the Shillingford business, because I think one of the comments I've put in is that people ought to be able to get there by public transport, and it's not easy going from Shillingford Hill into Brightwell. It's 2 buses basically. Would it be possible to have a sort of mini ward for those people and for them to vote in Wallingford? Because actually for them to go into Wallingford is not difficult. And it's easier that they wouldn't want to go to Warburg because it's awful. There's no buses there at all. Yeah, it's got a pub and it's got a nice selection of halls, but They're not very accessible unless you actually live in the place. But I wondered if that would be a possibility. I'm not sure that it's worth putting in at this stage, but given that we've got to do these every now and again, I mean, I know the other thing is a boundary review, because I can remember the Lock Island at Benson used to actually be in the parish of Brightwell, because that's just the other side of the river from those Chillingford people. So we moved that, one of these things, into Benson, where it was more sensibly sitting. But I think it needs consultation with people at Chillingford Hill to see where they would find it more convenient to vote.
Yeah, I think that would probably be a question for a community governance review, because obviously I totally understand. You look at the road system, and coming into Wallingford is more direct for them, but it's a different parish.
Yes.
And also you have impacts on the district boards and the county divisions as well. But they are still within the parish, although geographically it's close. Totally understand the point about.
I think Brightwell's in with Wallingford anyway for the county seat.
That's right.
That's a different issue, but
no.
is it essential that the polling station is within the ward or the area? Is that a requirement, or can it be outside?
If possible, it should be, the polling place should be within the polling district.
Yeah.
So that is the guidance that we have to go with, to provide a polling place within each polling district, which is what we try to do.
Yeah. I think.
But some aren't. But they're referred to in the report.
Yeah. Okay.
Just more of a question for my interest, really. Do the polling staff keep a record of people who've arrived without photo ID?
At the moment we have been required to report on that, yes, to the Electoral Commission, for the first election we did and the first two parliamentary elections. And then we put information on the information we're allowed to publish goes onto our website as well.
I'm going to continue with that. Continue recording that, if you just said it just for you were required for the first two parliamentary.
Yeah, it depends on the guidance we get. So it's not legislative, so we're not required to. But if the Electoral Commission advise that it's best practice to, then we would normally follow that, which is what we did for the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, as well as the police area returning officers saying that's what we would like everybody to do. So then we follow two sets of guidance for that. So it kind of depends.
Personally, I think it would be good to keep a record of that, just because people who make the effort to leave their house and to vote and then find out they've forgotten something or not been able to vote because they haven't got the ID, it'd be good to realise that will help us with our comms, because there was a by-election last week. I was helping out in Whitney and in Chipping Norton, and a lot of people were still there were saying, I'd love to vote, but I can't because I haven't got the proper ID. So I think that still needs to go out there.
Yeah, it's a balance and a decision that's made on an election by election basis, because of course, obviously, you need the staff to focus on the work that they absolutely have to do sometimes.
But we as a council should be able to say, if you haven't got any photo ID, when you send out the polling card, for example, could we not say, contact this number and get some photo ID? Yeah,
information's on there about how to apply for voter authorities.
It's just whether people read it or not. That's the problem. But as I say, this was only last Thursday, and obviously we were knocking up and trying to get people to vote. A number of people said, I haven't got photo ID, even now.
That's but you can get an ID from the council. You don't need that. Yeah, you can get a special one. But they didn't vote at the general election then. That's right.
Yeah, well, just mainly comments actually. The Henley is north and south, and that's going to change even more per county. But at the moment, we've got the town hall and the leisure centre in the north, and the leisure centres in the south. But it's not a problem. I said to Steve before, they're going to build a new community building eventually up at Highlands Park.
Excellent.
Which sorry if you can make a note of that. And the other one in the south, it used to be Trinity Hall, and they changed to Sacred Heart. If it was me personally, I'd probably have left it at the Trinity Hall, but there's no car parking there. Whereas the Sacred Heart, there's car parking, but it's an unmade road to get there. So it's okay for cars, but it's not really great for pedestrians. But
Yeah, we've had good feedback from Sacred Heart.
yeah,
And yeah, the main issue was the parking for staff and electors
yeah.
at Trinity Hall, and the conditions for staff all
So,
day
yeah,
weren't the best either.
So
Trinity
yeah,
Hall, but,
so
yeah.
I understand that. So I'm in favour of that. The Christchurch one, did we need another one? Do you really need 3? I think it works, but I'm not sure if you do need 3 polling booths or not.
We try not to send too many electors to the
Yeah.
same location,
Yeah.
and we did seriously look at whether we did need
Well, there's obviously more people for you to fit in there, because it just used to be Trinity Hall and the Leisure Centre, and then obviously they added Christchurch in, which made it up to 3. But it's fine with me. I say these are just mainly comments, and the Leisure Centre, I was talking to Steve before again. Someone complained about the when they started having it upstairs. But as long as it's kept downstairs, it's fine.
Yeah, we went to visit it and spoke to people, and there was an issue with the noise and the fans in the squash courts, and they've resolved that issue now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we were happy.
So
with that.
yeah, all in all, I'm fine if it stays as that. Yeah, no problem.
I see my third question is erroneous because I've noticed that actually I got confused about the Gorman bits, that it is actually moving subject to the feedback. So that makes sense. Thank you. The fourth question then isn't really about this report. It's more about this committee. So come back to that.
Well, I can quickly answer.
Yeah.
I mean, this committee has been very much reactive for its work programme, unlike scrutiny, which does have a work programme, looks at cabinet work programme, looks at policies coming forward. So, for example, we're required to undertake this review every 5 years, so that's a 5-year cycle, unless we do an interim review, which, of course, those who've been on the committee know we have done for the district and parish elections in 2023 to make sure everything's up to date. And it's when things like community governance reviews come forward, or if there were a boundary commission review of South Gloucestershire with this committee. So it's difficult to actually come up with a work programme. We can agree a timetable for certain reviews that come forward, but the committee, as you've seen, you've adopted minutes from November 2022. There's been no meeting since then.
As you said, it's reactive, not proactive.
But also we do have some input in how things are run, because in the last meeting, it's in the minutes, we were discussing the expansion of DICOP and how the number of councillors should be divided amongst the different wards. So we as a committee had a discussion about it and suggested it, and there was work done by the officers, and then some of the number of councillors per ward changed. So we can ask for that, and we did. So that's one of the things that we as a group can say, actually, this particular area is expanding. Or there's been a lot more development. Can we please review, for example, number of councillors in that town or village?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because are you right for us to talk about this, Chair? Sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, I was discussing with Stephen earlier on that the county review, which has not been ratified yet, but that's going to change a number of boundaries and things. The knock-on effect is that it may well affect South Oxfordshire, it may well affect parishes, or it may not. But maybe this committee has to meet to actually make those decisions, or make those.
I think it gets ratified in December.
Yeah, it's going to be ratified.
So
soon.
we should have a.
And that will
if it
apply.
has an impact, maybe we should have a meeting after that.
I don't know when, because you're going to be then planning for the elections, the county elections in May. So it may well be that
we have a meeting in January.
Yeah. No, we should bring something back, Chair, and because the parishes have probably contacted us with their concerns about the arrangements that the Boundary Commission put in place.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we could actually request that, couldn't we? We could say there'll be this meeting in January, and then have the parishes of the towns got any concerns like to look at. Yeah, good idea, Kath.
Yeah, because it affects Henley.
Yes, yeah,
Because where it's divided into two, it's now divided into two. But there's a large part of Henley and a small part, and then going into Shiplake and Binfield.
yeah.
So if you're an independent, like I am, it obviously affects me, because our people in Shiplake and Binfield and Harpston going to vote for an independent person from Henley.
Not necessarily.
Exactly,
No, it does have, and Tame's got exactly the same issues, that they've hived off a part of Tame and leaked it into Chalgrove. And those people in that part of Tame say, where's Chalgrove? Because they don't even know. So it does have an effect, or kind of a knock-on effect. And I think Steve's even just agreed that we'll have a meeting in early next year to
Well, to me, it makes sense to do that.
discover.
We ratified in December.
Yeah, that's what we ratified, and we'll have a meeting in January to sort of look at the knock-on effects, providing, of course, you've got enough time to consider them.
Yeah. Well, we can contact parishes and
Parishes and ask them. Yeah, some parishes it just won't affect at all, but I think the towns in mainly will be. And if is Benson affected, Sue?
No, we've got a very nice county seat, very sensible. Instead of the Benson ward councillors reporting to 3 different county councillors, it's all in one ward. We just Dorchester added.
I know, it just makes it so simple.
Yeah,
Makes some sense, but the other ones
that's one we've ever had.
been divided up. But we don't.
Didcot's going to get better because it used to include some of the wards were outside of Didcot. Now it's because it's grown so much. All the wards now, all the divisions are now in Didcot.
Yeah.
So
it's just good in some ways.
in that sense, it makes Didcot much easier because it's
But
all
what's the knock-on
within the town boundaries.
Yeah. So what?
South.
I'm talking about wider the capital of South Oxfordshire.
So anyway, that's sort of, yeah.
And there'll be others, won't there? Some of the more rural things are split are differently. I know we were looking around Downsfield and Chelsea and things like that around Wallingford, and they're going to go into places from memory.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they need to know what the effects are going to be for the districts and for the parish and the towns.
And then
I think that's what was just requested. Yeah.
If we're having another meeting, one of the I did actually send in a question. The answer was it's too complicated to do at this stage. Looking at polling stations again, I asked Stephen if we'd got figures on how many people actually voted at each of the existing polling places, because I mean James mentioned the climate effects of heating up numerous places that when hardly anybody turns up there. And there's a cost element, but I've always been told that we can't take the costs of these foreign places into account. But if we can take into account the climatic effects, maybe another way of looking at it. And what I would like to see is voting figures for each of the places. Now, for the July election, that's probably as many as you're ever going to get, because it's a very well publicised general election. If you look at something like, the county council elections, we can look at when they come up. We're not going to get anywhere near as many people voting, I suspect. I mean, perhaps they'll all be inspired too, but you never know. But it's and when people have got the option of postal votes, and what I would also like to do, should we have the time and inclination and money to do it, is surveying some of these places to see how people have actually got to the polling station. If they've walked, cycled, fine. I rather suspect an awful lot of them have driven. Some might turn by public transport, but we just have no idea at the moment how people get to polling stations, have we? I presume. I mean,
So the massive job.
it does.
Okay.
It may not be a popular view, but I think that should be relevant whether someone goes and votes in a polling station or not. It should be about. Personally, I think there should be more centres.
Accessibility.
For me, there should be more centres. And yes, I totally understand about the environmental concerns, etc., etc. But for me, when it comes to voting, there are people are so reluctant to vote or find excuses not to vote, I think there should be more centres rather than trying to say, okay, this centre has only had 10 people that all day, so let's combine it with another centre. I don't want that. I want as to be as many centres as possible, so people have less barriers to vote. Because at the moment not enough people are voting, and if you just condense everything into where they're most popular, then you can switch more people off. And yes, I understand about the environmental concerns and heating up a community centre, but for one day, I will spend it. I'll spend that money for people to vote.
Yes, if the people have walked there, but if they've got in their car
it doesn't
to go,
matter. To me, it's irrelevant whether they drive or go on a horse. The fact that they voted is more important on that particular day than other aspects. That's why I say it's not a popular view, but for me, it's about people voting and not enough people are voting.
I take your point, and Sue's point is very valid, but I don't know what you do with that data and what you actually use it for.
well, you wouldn't want it for everywhere. I mean, it's irrelevant.
James, do you have a point?
Yeah, I just want to say, Marky, I agree with you. But my question wasn't advocating that we should only have one polling station in the district. It was more that the way in which the climate tool had been used, it seemed to me the way it was presented was this is my question 5, right? It seemed to me that it took into account one set of emissions but not another. So I'm like you. The reason for asking about turnouts and things is if we got a healthy democracy, then we have a much higher turnout than the numbers we have. So I want to make it as easy as possible. I just wanted to when we're presenting things which say they have or don't have a climate impact, I'd like us to take the kind of the thing we draw a line around, which is what we include in our calculations. It felt to me it didn't look like it took everything into account. That was my question to Kim, rather than saying the obvious extrapolation from that is we put everybody in coaches and bust them into one place or whatever.
Yeah, we certainly can't do that.
I want you may say it's unpopular. I'm in agreement. Okay.
Yeah.
I want us to get more people voting.
Point well made.
Yes. And Chair, can I just reinforce what Susan said earlier that legally, if there is a venue within a polling district, we have to designate it. So even if it's a short distance to a polling place in a neighbouring district, we cannot choose not to designate it on grounds of cost, etc. If there's a decent venue, good accessibility, good facilities for staff, we're legally obliged to designate that place as a polling place, that venue as a polling place.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Right. Are we talked this out yet or not?
No, not yet.
Yes.
Just going back to Sue's other point, which you were talking about was turnout, if I understand. And were you asking about turnout almost by polling station or ward or whatever? So what level of granularity can we have that helps us understand trends like that? So that, for example, in Wallingford, we talked about, Catherine Keystone and I, we talked about working with the town council. We called it Project 50%, so that we can get the turnout in 2027 for town and district up to 50%, because this time we got pretty much an all-time high into what was that, a year and a half ago, 40%. So we'd love to know, are there ways in which where we've got more data that can help us actually target? So this is about, again, increasing democratic participation. I just wonder what's available, and it may already be there.
Data's available, isn't it? It's available how many votes there were in a particular box.
Yes,
not
yes,
what they were made, but how many are there.
to hand.
Which is what James asked.
Yeah. So we can provide it, but we
what's
can
readily
provide it
available.
quickly in time for tonight to us.
That's fine.
So
Yeah,
we can provide.
Yeah, they've got
It's
that
on the
data.
system, but it's not easily extracted.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Popular.
Just another view for a debate is, as I said, there was a by-election last week, and from speaking to some of my other colleagues around the county, there's going to be other by-elections, which cost money. Obviously, when there's local elections, it's all one day, and everyone knows, and you can have all the polling stations, the comms, etc., geared towards it. But with having ad hoc by-elections, just for one day, for one area, obviously there's cost involved. Is there any way of waiting until there's a certain number, or saying, that we're going to have it on these certain times? Just because I'm just thinking, well, not to say we move away from democracy, but I'm saying just for cost purposes, can we, rather than just having one, collate it with other people?
The only way I think that can happen is not from the officer's point of view, it's from Also, on a political point of view, you can by timing it.
Because the rule is you have to attend a meeting at least once every 6 months. So you should, in theory, have 6 months to plan a by-election to the most convenient time to have it.
Yeah, we've got one coming up in Tame, but the councillor just died overnight. She died last Sunday night. Yeah, didn't turn up at a meeting. So we've got one coming up. Yeah, and that was not anticipated, and we can't do much about it. The clock starts ticking as soon as she's not there. Yeah. Councillor Arnold.
There's a simple solution to all of this. Everything you've been discussing for the last half an hour is to put everybody on a postal vote. Solve the problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we'll do it on the phone.
Does that make it more difficult for the officers if everybody went on the postal vote?
You got more paperwork to send out.
We would still have to provide polling stations because we're obliged to. So you'd still have all that work to do, and opening hundreds of thousands of postal votes.
That'll be a change from up on high. Let's just talk to your boss, Mocky.
I think they're going to try and get people to go to postal vote, but there'll always be people who want to walk in and put a cross in and hand it.
Yeah, I'll get the right to do that.
I'd like to go there for a chat. See people.
Actually, I like putting a cross in and actually putting it into the ballot box.
Yeah.
So I don't
James,
think I'll
another
go
question.
for
Yeah.
Another question.
Well, they just keep going. Yeah.
You got about questions or postal?
Well, when you're talking about the data, you could help us with postal votes as well, in terms of, can you see postal votes by ward as well? Just thinking about the fact you're effectively running 2 elections at any time now. Is that something that's possible? Just think about what you can say.
Pull out postal vote data. Yeah.
That was a supplementary one.
Well, here's the debate. In theory, we've got another hour and a half, but I don't think we're not going to take it.
I'm certainly not interested in keeping us there, but at the same time, we're here, and it's really, to me, it's important for us to talk about it.
We may not have another meeting for 2 years.
To discuss, and I think we've already.
Can I just say that in terms of what's written in the paper, I think it all sounds very sensible, and I'd be very happy for you to go ahead and do them, because we can always look at them again in future anyway.
Yeah.
So we propose the recommendation.
I propose them.
Chair, I have one update.
We've got an update
Because
we might not agree with the update.
because you saved my voice by not doing my lengthy introduction. But we have one update from Mocky will correct me. Is it St. Birinus? Birinus School, who've responded about the use of the Deacon Leisure Centre, raising a couple of concerns. One of them being that they use the main sports hall for GCSE exams, often at the start of May when we often have elections, and also raising concern about the car park being used by the school leisure centre and electors on election day. So that's something the committee will need to be mindful of when considering the recommendations. Officer Wenton, I don't know if Susan wants to add, but we did visit this.
We did visit. We couldn't go inside because it was closed.
So you're next door.
I think you're next door.
Next door, Judy. So something to be mindful of. Either we move ahead and designate leisure centre, and we would have to maybe designate a temporary place if there were exams, or you could continue using Barnes Community Centre, which officers don't consider is a great venue, or of course there's the Edmonds Park Pavilion, which is reasonably close.
Traditionally, elections are the first Thursday in May. So, for example, the county elections are first of May. So we already know the date. So hopefully they will know whether they're using the hall on that day or not, for example. So I think we should still designate them as a polling station, and then nearer the time, have both, have Barnes and St. Brianus as a polling station, and then change if we have to. But the fact that we know when the next elections are, or the dates of the elections, they should have to correspond with whether they need the hall or not.
But if you book the hall, don't you?
Well, yeah.
they can't use it for something else if you booked it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So carry on, is what you're saying?
Well, I think carry on,
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
we already know it's traditionally it's the first Thursday in May.
What's your policy? You're talking about booking it.
I thought it sounded a bit early for GCSE exam.
Well, that's what I thought, but that's why I thought they would know when their exams are.
First of May,
We know it's the 1st of May, and then we know when the local elections are. It'll be the first Thursday in May of that year.
Sounds like they're making a bit of an excuse there, aren't
Well, they have offered us the squash courts at the leisure centre as opposed to the main hall, but we'd have to be mindful of. We don't want to disrupt. If they are using the main hall for GCSEs, we have to be very
You
mindful.
can't use the squash courts.
No, but that's on offer as well.
Okay. So getting back to the agenda, which says to consider. So we have considered.
Propose a
Have you
recommendation.
finished your
set out.
questions?
I have one other question which might be relevant. Yeah, thanks again. And it may not be, but given this isn't exhaustive, I was curious about the consultation with the proposed alternative venues because several people in Wallingford raised the fact that Centre 70 has been suggested, makes loads of sense. It's geographically central, it's very easy, accessible. But not many, I know people, including myself, have incredible difficulty booking that venue. And this in a way links to, who'd get to Didcot Leisure Centre first, the school or SADC. So I'm just curious about the conversations you typically have with venues and that one in particular.
Yeah. So 2 of my team went out and visited Centre 70. They corresponded with them in advance. We got responses back fairly quickly, so that wasn't on our radar that it had been difficult. Yeah. But they did actually meet somebody on site and go in and have a visit.
If you need to book it, come by the.
Well, I've used my SADC address and my private one for different things. It's interesting. Okay. Now that's helpful to know that, and typically you talk to all of the venues ahead of time, like when you're doing this consultation.
Yeah,
anyway.
so we've actually, we've
I
visited
think
all the
Mark is
venues
right.
we could.
They all know when the election is.
Yeah, and just from being someone from the other side, I must admit that the consultation and the paperwork comes in very early. So when the centre that I run was considered as a polling station, the discussion was had about 7-8 months in advance.
Yeah, so
and they were to fill in all these forms about health and safety, etc., size and so on.
yeah, everything apart from what we're discussing tonight has already been booked for 1st of May next year.
So just picking up a point where the town, the leisure centres now used in the wrong ward. We used to be a school before, Valley Road School. I think the Palmer Roads there, I think the teachers were concerned about the adults going in there, mixing with the children. And I would imagine that's probably why they
we'd avoid using school premises as much
but
as
it was
can.
it was absolutely perfect. It was central, absolutely brilliant place for
There's
us.
been a bit of directive from on high to stop using schools if you can. Yeah. Okay, we've had a proposal to take it as presented. Is that seconded?
Yeah,
that's seconded. Any further discussion? No
I'll
further
just speak
discussion.
as a seconder.
Sorry?
I'll just speak as a seconder.
Yes, you can.
I'm going back to you, Ken. Can you want to speak as a secretary? Yes, you can.
No, all I would say when you look at the questions and answers in the information in front of us, there are people for, there are people against, but they're very low numbers. Okay, we've listened to them, but I think we've discussed the issues and come up with the right recommendation.
I'll go back to Sue to sum up if you wish.
No.
Okay, all right. So all those in
Go
favour,
soon.
show. Thank you very much. That's past straw. Go on. Thank you. Thank you, Bertie.
Right. Thank you all very much.
Can I ask a couple of other questions while we're here? I mean, they don't have to be part of the agenda or whatever. I'm just curious why you're here.
I'll just wait and see when. Actually, Bertie's stop the close.
Sure.
Probably working next door. It's stopped. It's already next.
How do you know that it's not?
Yeah, this is smaller. Lots of distance